Next on WCCO Mornings, charges for more than a dozen anti-ICE protesters. The comments from one of the defendants after appearing in court.
Plus, the amount of felony charges a man now faces after an hours-long standoff with police.
It is the final day of the G7 summit for President Trump. The questions from both sides of the political aisle on the deal with Iran.
And the FBI releasing details of an alleged plot to attack the UFC event at the White House. The high-ranking officials said to be targeted. Good morning. Welcome to Wednesday on WCCO Mornings. We're streaming live on CBS News Minnesota. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. Thanks for being on the stream with us this morning. Let's start with the very latest developments. This is after U.S. prosecutors in Minnesota announced charges against 15 people that they say conspired to, quote, violently oppose immigration law enforcement. Now, despite that fact that U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen failed to describe a single example of injuries to federal agents when he was repeatedly questioned.
And this is new video of one of them getting arrested in South Minneapolis yesterday. You're going to see here federal agents in their tactical gear. They lead the man into a black SUV as protesters shouted down to them. The Department of Justice claims he and 14 others were part of an Antifa conspiracy to block and hurt ICE agents.
And this morning, our Barrett Leone is live at the federal courthouse with the very latest on these cases. Also, we're hearing from one of these defendants, Barrett.
Yeah, that's right. And that defendant calls this case politically motivated. He was one of the dozen who appeared in court Tuesday afternoon. And right now, two defendants remain at large currently. Federal prosecutors, though, they say that this case is the result of a months-long investigation. 15 people are facing federal charges in connection to anti-ICE protests here in Minnesota. Those charges include conspiracy to impede or injure federal officers, assault on a federal officer, interstate stalking, destruction of government property, and more. Outside the federal courthouse Tuesday, supporters gathered throughout the afternoon as 12 of the 15 defendants made their first court appearance. All 12 who appeared in court were released pending future hearings. Now, we spoke with one defendant who called the evidence against him flimsy.
And there was 12 armed men with assault rifles pointed at me, demanding that I surrender or basically be shot. This is what they will do, and they won't go away if we become quiet or become docile. That's when they start to take control again. That's when they start to make moves again. We need to get loud, we need to get into the streets, and we need to resist them.
At a news conference Tuesday announcing the charges, U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen pointed to a statement Kennedy made online describing the burning of Minneapolis's 3rd precinct as, quote, the happiest moment of my life. In another post, he wrote, quote, you will never win with non-violence. Kennedy denied the allegations. Investigators said defendants were charged not for what they said, but what they did.
Today's announcement is the result of a thorough and months-long investigation into a deeply concerning trend: coordinated violence targeting federal law enforcement officers and facilities.
Now, Rosen made multiple references to violence made by those charged. However, when repeatedly asked about how many agents were injured or specific injuries, he did not give any specific examples. But in the next half hour, we will hear from a defense attorney who calls this case politically motivated.
Okay, just the start here.
Yeah,
all right, Barrett, thank you. Now, we will have continuing coverage all throughout the morning on these new charges. Plus, Barrett talked about this a bit. What is Antifa? Is it a label, an idea? Is it a terrorist organization? We're going to take a closer look coming up in the next half hour.
The convicted ringleader of the nation's largest pandemic fraud scheme wants a new trial. A judge sentenced Amy Bach last month to more than 40 years for leading Feeding Our Future, that scheme. On Tuesday, Bach filed a notice that she's appealing both the sentence and her conviction. Prosecutors say the group stole $250 million by pretending to feed hungry children and pocketing that money themselves. More than 70 people have been charged in that scheme.
A man now faces several felony charges. This is after an hours-long standoff near Eat Street. So the fugitive was holed up in an apartment in Minneapolis. This was last Tuesday, and it started shooting at law enforcement. Two girls in the next-door apartment, they were able to safely escape, and so did a 3-year-old who was inside the apartment when that shooting started. Tyler O'Brien is now facing 21 felonies. Now, charges against him say that he shot through the door towards the deputies directly outside. Then they say he fired multiple volleys in their direction. They say some of those rounds hitting the ground near them, armored vehicles, and at least one squad car. That standoff lasted 8 hours before negotiators were able to end it, and thankfully nobody was hurt.
Time is 7:05. We got to check in with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames, because Joseph, I know you're tracking the rain, and also you mentioned this before. There's a threat of some stronger storms later today.
Yeah, this afternoon. You know, we've had some strong storms south of us this morning, moving through southern extreme portions of Minnesota into Iowa, but we haven't seen anything around here that has been severe or that strong. That could change though later this afternoon. Right now, maybe a bit of a break. It is cloudy outside. It is very, very damp and wet outside. I'm still expecting more to develop as we work through the morning hours. We'll have waves of rain and maybe some storms, as I mentioned, this afternoon. Temperatures in the 50s, and they'll likely remain in the 50s for the most part. I'll show you the radar lightning strikes. This is over the last about half an hour to hour, and you can see that we've had steady rain up to the north. I mentioned to the southwest it was dry, but something else could form. Look what happens. It doesn't take very long. It's about like 10-15 minutes, all those showers, and even maybe just a heavier downpour there east of Waconia developing. So it doesn't take much time at all. I would be ready for some pockets of rain in and out throughout the morning into the afternoon before we kind of settle down later tonight. Let's head up north. We've had some very steady moderate to heavy rain up there from Aiken, extending into our counties to the northwest, Crow Wing County, Aiken County, Mille Lacs County, into Kanabec County, and over to Pine County this morning. So steady rain there is going to slow you down. Rain jacket helpful. You may get a break for a little bit as you approach maybe like mid to late morning, but I'm expecting more to develop again as we get closer to lunchtime. I discussed that threat for severe weather being south of us. There's still a watch. There's still a severe thunderstorm warning, but it is moving away from us. But you can really tell how strong the winds are this morning and how strong they'll be today, because the wind is really pushing these storms quickly, and that is what's going to fuel most of the storms. Not necessarily a lot of heat, more just an aggressive wind and jet stream for today. Temperatures this morning are cool. I have 57 degrees out of Blaine and 55 for Lake Elmo, so you may want to bundle up just a little bit. It is definitely overcast. Will we get some sun breaks? Not a lot, but if we do, it might help fuel maybe a pocket of some heavier downpours. I do have some storms in the forecast after lunchtime, and they could potentially be severe. Most of the really active severe weather, again, southeast of us. But notice that it does clip the cities there with a 1 of 5 marginal risk, which is just telling us we might have something that's isolated for today. I'll walk you through the rest of the forecast. I have more rain in the forecast Friday as well as on Father's Day. I'll break that all down, though, coming up at 7:30, Heather.
All right, Joseph, thanks. Take a look now at your next drive. You can see roads are wet up in White Bear Lake, even if the rain isn't actively coming down at this point. But we haven't seen any crashes this morning from that rain, from those wet roads. So MnDOT not reporting anything major that's going to slow you down right now. Just be careful if you are headed out the door.
Let's head to the live desk. Maria Lisignoli joins us. I know, Maria, you're following the President Trump and the G7 summit and the deal with Iran.
Yeah, a lot happening today, as it is the final day in France at the G7 for President Trump. He's scheduled to hold a press conference later this morning, 2 days before the scheduled signing of the U.S.-Iran peace agreement. The president posed for a picture with world leaders at the G7 summit as he sold the U.S.-Iran agreement as a positive step forward. The text of the deal to end the war has not been made public, with an in-person signing scheduled for Friday in Switzerland. It's drawing criticism from some Democratic lawmakers, and even some Republicans are reserving judgment.
I just have one basic question, which is, if this deal is so good, why can't the public see
I think
it?
we'd all like to see the terms of the memorandum and hopefully end up with a real deal.
President Trump is directing his critiques at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after Israel attacked Beirut, targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters just as the agreement was finalized. Netanyahu is vowing to keep forces in southern Lebanon as long as needed, saying the struggle has not ended. Iran says their presence violates the U.S.-Iran deal to end that war. So today at the G7, President Trump will be sitting down with the leaders of Egypt and India as well.
All right, Maria, thank you.
Reminder, I should say, Maria has headlines, live updates each weekday morning here on our 24/7 free streaming service, CBS News Minnesota.
We're learning about new details. This is about a plot to attack officials who were attending the UFC fights on the White House grounds over the weekend.
Court documents say 5 people involved in the plot have been arrested so far. Authorities say more arrests are likely, and there are at least 19 people who had been discussing the plan to kill White House officials, up to and including President Trump. Those discussions allegedly held on the messaging app Signal. Court documents say the plot started to unravel last week when the mother of an alleged planner tipped off police. She said her son had bought $3,000 worth of weapons.
Happening today, the man accused of murdering a Minnesota healthcare CEO is headed to court. This is after a mistake postponed his hearing yesterday. Luigi Mangione is charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. This was back in December of 2024. Mangione was supposed to be in a New York courtroom on Tuesday, but the prosecutors did not send the paperwork to the jail. His state and federal trials are scheduled to begin this fall.
From the bench to behind bars?
What could happen to a former Wisconsin judge who helped a man avoid ICE agents?
And the pounds may be coming off, but are you losing more than fat? The muscle-saving advice every GLP-1 user should know.
Let's take a look now at your next drive. Take you up to for the lead this morning. Roads are wet, but traffic moving along nicely and generally one of the busier spots. It is Wednesday, so we usually see at this time some busier roads, but I think people are taking a little more slowly here. This rain not impacting any crashes. MnDOT not reporting anything major right now that is going to slow you down. We do have an update this morning to the case of a former Wisconsin judge, all because of this moment right here. You see Judge Hannah Dugan last year directing ICE agents away from her courtroom so she could help an immigrant escape from them. So a jury convicted Dugan of obstructing justice. A federal judge was considering overturning that conviction, but last night we learned he decided against it. So investigators say once Dugan sent those ICE agents away, she let the man that they were looking for out of a private door. Surveillance video shows that man and his attorney running away. Well, now we know her conviction, will stand. The federal judge still needs to sentence her. She is facing up to 5 years in prison, but will likely get probation. She resigned from the bench about 6 months ago. Candidates who are running to be Minnesota's next governor just filed reports showing how much they have to spend on their campaigns, and there's a big disparity between the parties. Let's turn to the Republican side. This is the race for governor here. House Speaker Lisa Demuth reporting more than $360,000. MyPillow CEO Mike Landell showing about $650,000 in his fund. Now, the party-endorsed candidate Kendall Qualls, he has about $210,000 on hand. Candidates will face off in a primary on August 11th. And on the DFL side, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar is running unopposed for that nomination. She reports more than $7 million in her campaign funds. The general election is scheduled for November 3rd. We do have a reality check this morning for first-time home buyers. Prices for starter homes across the country have tripled in the last few years. There's a new report from Zillow that shows a record 242 U.S. cities have entry-level homes that are priced at $1 million or more. Evan Moon takes a closer look.
Is $1 million the new norm for a starter home? A new report by Zillow says in many cities it is. Starter homes are considered the lower third of home prices in any given area, and data shows 242 U.S. cities face these affordability pressures. 26 states have at least one city with $1 million starter homes. New York and New Jersey are the fastest growing states on the list, while California leads with 105 cities at this price range. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger says first-time homebuyers are facing several challenges.
Prices have gone up, and so have mortgage rates, so has homeowners insurance. We're at the 6.5% range. It's tough out there.
Experts say a pandemic-era housing boom continues to fuel a housing shortage, driving up values.
Just 5 years ago, and you say, what share of income would it take to buy a house and live with it and pay a certain amount every month? It was about 30% of the average median income. Now it's 43%.
Housing economist Lisa Sturdivant says the average age of a first-time homebuyer is now close to 40. Supply is a huge problem.
There are a lot of communities out there that simply prohibit the construction of smaller homes, right? There are local zoning and land use ordinances.
Sturdivant says in places like California, income inequality is also a factor.
Even though there are teachers and firefighters and more moderate wage workers who want to purchase a home in those markets, if you have very, very rich people, they're able to bid up the prices of those homes. And I think that's happening in many of those sort of San Francisco area markets in California.
Experts suggest considering a 10% down payment instead of the standard 20% and weighing whether renting offers more flexibility in this current market. Evan Moon, CBS News.
America's 250th birthday is just a few weeks away. Plenty of people will be traveling to celebrate. According to AAA, this year there is likely to be record travel numbers, and that travel actually starts days before the actual holiday. AAA projecting 72.2 million people will travel at least 50 miles for Independence Day. That would beat last year's record of 71.8 million. Busiest travel period for the 4th of July? It's actually a 9-day stretch, starts on June 27th and then runs through July 5th. AAA predicting more than 61 million people will drive to those destinations. 6 million expected to fly, 5 million traveling on buses, trains, or cruises. And if you're one of those planning to drive, your gas prices are still going to be causing some trouble, but they have been on the decline. Today, Minnesota's average $3.82 a gallon. That's down from last week when prices were at $3.94. Still higher, though, than this time last year when prices were $3.05 a gallon. And maybe your holiday travel will be by plane. If that's the case, maybe you're one of the United passengers with a plane that's made for the 4th of July. Check this out. United Airlines unveiling its new specialty Stars and Stripes planes. This is, of course, to celebrate America's 250th birthday. There will be 2 passenger planes with the new look. This will honor the nation's milestone. In addition to the patriotic planes, United also announcing an initiative to provide active duty U.S. military pilots expedited access to a conditional job offer with the airline. In this morning's Health Watch, we are taking a closer look at the work that you still need to do when you are taking weight loss medications. So when people are taking those GLP-1s like Ozempic, they find themselves losing pounds quickly. But medical experts say that doesn't automatically mean that you're getting healthier. Chief Medical Officer at Stride Health says that when you're losing weight, you're not just losing fat, you're losing muscle as well. Stride Health leads of programs that ensure GLP-1 medications are being used safely. There are 2 key muscle-preserving strategies to focus on if you're using GLP-1 meds. Now, first, they say strength training, like lifting weights, and second, make sure you're getting enough protein in your diet. Experts say families sharing meals enjoy an abundance of benefits like improved emotional satisfaction and healthier diets. But now there's a new study that finds parents are on their devices during meals even more than their kids. This survey of more than 350 parents found more than 3/4 of them reported media use during their last family meal. Now, mainly these are the smartphones. Parents also said that their kids were almost as likely to have used media, 70% of them also engaging in some form of media use. Experts say making the time for even one dedicated family meal a week with your phones put away for 20 to 30 minutes, that it could be worth it. The Grammy Awards announcing 5 new categories and updated rules for next year's show. We'll tell you the new categories. They include Best Asian Pop Music Performances, Best R&B Collaboration or Duo Group Performance, Best Traditional Pop Vocal Performance, and Best Traditional Folk Album and Best Latin Song. There's another change here, though, as well. The maximum number of times that an artist may be submitted, that's increased from 3 to 4. Also, the threshold of new recordings required on an eligible album, that's now 66%. This is to reduce the exclusion of entries that are widely recognized throughout the music industry as new albums. Will a popular dog park be forced to close? Dog owners who frequent that area hope that's not the case, but a decision could be made much sooner than they like. And weighing the cost as MPD wants to expand its shot spotter technology. The City Council has to decide if it's worth the price tag. We'll tell you the money they're asking for.
Always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good Wednesday morning, 7:26 now. Joseph will have your next weather forecast coming up in just a minute. But first, a summer meal program starts today for local students. So St. Paul Public School kids will get free meals. This is to kids under 18 and under, I should say, who are currently enrolled in a school program. So kids and teenagers, they can get a meal at more than 50 schools, rec centers, libraries, and community sites. So the program lasts through August 21st. Let's take a look now at your next drive. Roads are wet out there. Take over to the crosstown right here at Portland. This is just near the airport, but traffic is moving along smoothly, and that's really what we've seen all morning long. You can see the metro map. For the most part, everything's in the green. Usually Wednesdays are a busier morning. We start to see more reds and yellows at this time, but people may just be taking it more slowly out there this morning. No major crashes, nothing major that's going to slow you down. Just be careful as you head out the door. Joseph?
All right, good to see that. We do have a healthy rain out there, though, this morning. Extended through areas of the metro, more so north and east of us. White Bear Lake up through North Branch, and if you keep on going north. So yeah, make sure you are prepared for that this morning. The rain gear and just a slower commute probably. 169 all the way up to about Itasca County there. We have Grand Rapids with some rain, and then just really coming down through portions of the Aiken County area there. Maybe a little sunbreak down to the southwest. Temperature is quite cool right now in the 50s. It looks like this outside. This is how much rain we've had today. We have more on the way. We'll discuss that coming up.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, more than a dozen anti-ICE protesters now facing charges. The reason: a defense lawyer is confident he can win those cases in court.
Popular local dog park could be on the verge of closing. The final vote that's happening today to decide if the Minneapolis off-leash park can remain open.
Plus, the Minneapolis City Council debate on shot spotter technology today. The response from critics to supporters who say it helps officers do their jobs.
And the mayor of Forest Lake is going green. The community support and success he's seeing after a tough diagnosis.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this Wednesday morning. I'm AJ Hilton.
And I'm Heather Brown. Right now, 15 people are charged here in Minnesota. They are accused of conspiring to, quote, violently oppose immigration law enforcement. This is according to the U.S. Attorney's Office.
But we still have not seen any evidence or injuries to agents after repeatedly asking. Prosecutors say this case is not about free speech. They argue it's about actions they say cross the line into criminal conduct. This is a 94-page indictment. It charges more than a dozen people. 12 of them already made their first appearance in federal court. So a majority of the defendants were arrested yesterday morning, Tuesday morning. The charges ranged from assault on a federal officer to destruction of government property to conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer. They're all connected to anti-ICE protests. One of 12 of the people charged appeared in court Tuesday afternoon. They were released pending future hearings. Outside the courthouse, we saw supporters who rallied for hours. They chanted as defenders were released one by one. WCCO crews were also witness to law enforcement deploying tear gas and pepper spraying as tensions started to escalate.
These defendants have been charged not for what they said, but for what they did. They all joined an agreement, a conspiracy, to interfere with lawful immigration enforcement operations. The conspiracy was not to interfere by their voice, but to do it by force.
A defendant we spoke with following his court appearance called the evidence against him incredibly flimsy. He denies the allegations. Defense attorneys argue the case is politically motivated and say protesters were exercising their constitutional rights.
At the bottom of this indictment is the federal government is trying to push back against citizens who oppose the invasion of this state. We'll fight these cases. We're confident that we can defend them.
When repeatedly asked, U.S. Attorney for Minnesota Daniel Rosen was not able to give specific examples of federal officers injured. However, he did show several online statements used as evidence in the case, including a video where a defendant is seen wearing a bulletproof vest and telling his viewers to get their guns and stop these people.
As we learn more about the charges against these 15 Minnesotans, the term Antifa has been coming up a lot. But what is Antifa?
Is it a label? Is it an idea? A terrorist organization? Here's what we do know. Last September, President Trump signed an executive order labeling Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. It's short for anti-fascist or anti-fascism. Back in 2020, the Congressional Research Service investigated America's Antifa movement. The research called it, quote, decentralized, consisting of independent, radical, like-minded groups and individuals, essentially saying Antifa has no structure, no official membership, and those who use the label can have different ideologies.
Some people might be socialists, some people might be communists, some people might be anarchists, and they all use this term anti-fascist to describe themselves. However, they're not really connected to an overarching ideology.
President Trump not only issued that executive order designating Antifa as a terrorist organization, he also issued National Security Presidential Memorandum 7. That directed the Justice Department to prioritize politically motivated violence. It's a move that created the framework leading to Tuesday's charges against those anti-ICE protesters. But critics feel the memorandum violates free speech and gives the federal government flexibility to pick and choose its targets.
7:35 now. Let's take you outside downtown Minneapolis. The streets are wet. The rain is coming down right now here, at least in this part of the metro. Let's check in with Joseph because we've really seen it pretty steady all throughout the morning.
Yeah, roads going to definitely be wet. I mean, it's really been coming down, especially north and east of us here over the last half an hour to hour. But at one point, we did have a little more rain to the west metro. But even though you're seeing some dry time here, it can definitely fill up and redevelop as we go through the morning hours. Please just grab an umbrella or a rain jacket. You'll likely need it on and off as we work through the day today. Okay, why don't we stop this and go up north? All right, I want to show you what's going on in Aiken County. And it is really coming down. I've been tracking this all morning from 169 in Aiken all the way to the south or north. We've had moderate showers here. No thunderstorms. We're not getting any sort of lightning out of this, but we're definitely getting tons of moisture. So a nice steady rain where you're just going to see those totals stack up and stack up. And I'm sure you'll probably have over at least a half an inch for your rain totals for today. Chisago County there coming up with some steady rains over towards Forest Lake down through White Bear Lake. It's very, very wet into Shoreview. The northeast metro area right now is probably seeing the most consistent rain, but it is definitely coming down outside of our station right now. We have two little pieces of energy here. We have low pressure at the surface, kind of acting like cogs in the atmosphere where they're just zooming the wind right on through, and that wind is going to help distribute more showers, and it's going to help develop more storms as we head into the afternoon. Right now, that severe threat is south of us. And that's likely where most of the severe weather is going to occur for today. In fact, just like last Wednesday, another 4 of 5 severe threat over there in portions of central Illinois and east central areas of Indiana. This is where they had a tornado outbreak last week, and the possibility is there again for today. For us, this northwest lobe right here that's approaching the cities, this is on the marginal side. Which essentially is telling us we could have something that's very isolated that could be severe later today, and the storms that we see develop later today wouldn't be as long lasting or maybe not as strong, but the threat is still there for a little something, maybe a warning popping up later. Let's talk about the timing. Here's lunchtime right here. I still see rain and some steady rain in western Wisconsin, hopefully a break for some of you up to the north and northwest that have been getting some good rain here for a while. You'll notice little islands popping up right here as we head into the afternoon. I think from about 1 to maybe 4 or 5 p.m. we could see some strong to severe storms embedded into those cells, but nothing too impressive at this time. These are more so going to be driven by the wind strength. We're not necessarily going to get a lot of heat and energy from the sun today because of all the cloud cover in the system that we have in place. This clears out. Guess what? Tomorrow morning, finally a break. We've had back-to-back mornings of rain and pretty heavy rain at times. Tomorrow morning, when you're heading out for your morning commute, it should be dry, and I'm hopeful that we'll have some sun out there as well. We'll get a decent amount of sunshine in the afternoon. And then all eyes on Friday. Friday, as we start to kick off the weekend, we still see some showers and maybe some storms in the forecast. There's 445, and you can see a little something there. So we can't rule out another round of rain and storms before we wrap up this work week. In fact, I think Friday is trending in that direction. Saturday, though, if you're getting ready for the weekend, it's going to be a beautiful day. I'm going to go with mid-70s for now. We'll have to see if we end up with some windy conditions in between the two systems Friday and Sunday. That's a possibility, but other than that, it looks really, really nice. And then for Father's Day, we're still tracking some showers, and we'll have to see how that one plays out, but I'd be ready for a little something on Sunday. Guys.
Joseph, we appreciate that update. You just mentioned, you said the northeast part of the metro is getting some heavy rain right now, so I put the camera up in White Bear. 35E at County Road 96, and yeah, it's coming down pretty good. You can see ponding on the roads. Please be careful. The good news, despite that, is we are not seeing any crashes at 739, which is exactly what I want to see, but just please be careful. Make sure you're giving yourself plenty of time to move, and make sure those windshield wipers are working properly, and you should be okay.
Future of data centers in Minneapolis remains up in the air. This was following a city council meeting yesterday. But for the first time, we're hearing from Minneapolis residents on the topic. Now, right now, there is a 6-month pause on all data center developments in the city, other than projects that are happening within the downtown core. But this is not a data center ban. It's time to create regulations and to explore potential harm that these projects could cause for the community.
Data centers provide thousands of work hours for our members in family-sustaining careers that offer industry-leading wages, healthcare, retirement benefits, and apprenticeship training opportunities.
These centers are a drain on public resources and a bite on our communities that will drive away business-minded individuals and entrepreneurs who understand that the public outcry around these data centers will lead to a further exodus of our entertainment and hospitality industry.
Now, that debate on data centers, it will now head over to the full city council for a vote. Another topic that the council talked about yesterday was bathhouses. The vote to lay the groundwork for bathhouses in Minneapolis failed at a committee meeting on Tuesday. But under council rules, it will still move to a vote by the full council. Bathhouses were banned in Minneapolis back in 1988. This was during the AIDS crisis. And now those in favor say legalizing bathhouses allows for greater opportunity for these venues to better combat the spread of things like STIs through things like testing.
To keep them banned and closed does not reduce HIV, especially in a city where there are bathhouses that are happening, but they're happening underground.
I see a revenue stream. We're talking about revitalizing downtown. We're talking about business opportunities for all sorts of different walks of life. Do you know what brings in money? Adult venues.
Councilmember Jason Chavez says the ban is rooted in homophobia. Again, the topic will be considered by the full council at a later time.
And happening today, the Minneapolis City Council will discuss ShotSpotter technology, which has recently been up for debate. This technology listens for gunfire, and supporters say it helps officers respond quickly. Critics wonder if it's worth the cost. The Minneapolis Police Department hopes to extend and expand the program to the tune of $3 million over the next 3 years. The proposal is back before the council today. We'll update you as we learn more.
Minneapolis park leaders say that a beloved dog park is actually a sacred site with deep meaning for Dakota tribes.
This is the Minnehaha Off-Leash Dog Park. It runs along the Mississippi River, gives dog owners a chance to let their dogs run free in the water in the city. It's been open for years, and a park board member introduced a resolution in earlier this month, to, quote, decommission the dog park because of the cultural significance. Last night, the park board president shared a statement with WCCO saying in part, quote, we have received significant input from constituents, Native leaders, NPRB staff, historians, and archaeologists on this issue, enough that we feel we can make an informed decision. And now he wants to see people start talking about alternate locations. The park board has consulted with the Native American Advisory Board, council I should say, and some members focused on the spiritual significance, saying dogs to the site would stop a Native person from praying there. But some dog owners say they don't agree with that reasoning.
And this is a secular governing body, and they're not supposed to be making zoning decisions based off theology.
There is at least one park board member who wants to slow down the process. She introduced an amendment that calls for more community engagement. The final vote is scheduled for tonight.
Looking to expand that family greenhouse.
Yeah, why a mayor is moving into selling cannabis even though he's never tried it.
And pulling together for a purpose, the great cause that's inspiring people to do the impossible.
A new cannabis dispensary just opened north of the metro, and the city's mayor is one of the owners. His family has been a part of the community for generations. As photojournalist Tony Peterson and Derek James found out, businesses are finding green in the green.
Parents started it back in 1930.
It's a Forest Lake family business in horticulture.
96 years, 3 generations.
That's had to adapt.
1997, we opened up Big Apple Bagel and Coffee Shop, and in 2005, we opened Roberts Family Funeral Home.
And adapting again, brothers Blake and Kelly Roberts opened a cannabis shop. Blake is also the mayor of Forest Lake.
You have to be relevant, continue to move forward and pivot.
Pivoting into an unfamiliar world.
At first, it was scary.
Just because the perception, what people maybe thought.
Josh Prestegard is the general manager of the Greenhouse Cannabis Company.
I honestly believe that cannabis saved my life.
He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 3 years ago.
I felt like I was poisoning my body enough with the chemo and radiation that I wanted to find a more natural thing that would help me get up, be able to participate in my kids, my family's lives.
He discovered cannabis gave him hope.
From fighting for my life to now living again. And so I'm thankful to this community.
Josh says he's thankful to the family that has been a part of Forest Lake for generations. Several customers we talked to agree.
I really think this is going to help people here in Forest Lake. I've just been so excited.
In Forest Lake with photojournalist Tony Peterson, Derek James, WCCO News.
And the brothers hope to start growing their own products soon. If you're wondering, Mayor Blake Roberts abstains from all votes and council decisions regarding the new business. Hey, we can't forget Special Olympic USA Games. They're just days away from getting started in Minnesota. The Flame of Hope, it's already started its journey across Minnesota. Yesterday, the torch made its way up to Duluth. Today's stops include Hibbing, Brainerd, Alexandria. Look at the stops tomorrow. Several stops make its way down to Watertown, Rochester, Red Wing, Bloomington, and then heads back to the Metro on Saturday. Stops in Stillwater, St. Paul, Blaine, and then the start of Saturday's opening ceremony. That'll be taking place in Minneapolis at Huntington Bank Stadium on the U of M campus. A mighty group of Minnesotans pulled off the unthinkable. This is all for a great cause, too. We're talking about 20 teams of Sun Country employees. Look at them, lined up on the tarmac at MSP International. They are competing in an airplane pull. Yeah, they're pulling a plane. All done to raise funds for Make-A-Wish Minnesota. Events like these help provide sick kids an unforgettable opportunity, and organizers say it's fun for everyone.
This is the greatest day of the year for our employees, for our community. We love the plane pull and the Make-A-Wish partnership.
Right? I mean, that's how you make memories. Last year's plane pull event raised more than $100,000. No word yet on how much they raised during yesterday's event, but you can imagine they did a nice job. They raised a whole lot of money. Give you another live look outside this morning. You see that next weather tower glowing green. The rain, when's it going to stop? Joseph Dames has an answer.
Here we go for a Wednesday. Good morning to everybody. We do have some rain and some isolated thunderstorms in the forecast for today. And temperatures are just going to be running on the cooler side with highs in the 60s, probably the upper 60s, pushing 70 down south. And yes, a chance for some strong to maybe even some severe storms this afternoon. That severe threat will mainly stay southeast of us, but notice closer to the cities and down to the southeast, we have a 1 of 5 marginal risk and a 2 of 5 slight risk.
Well, Joseph, good news when it comes to your next drive. We're not following any crashes despite the rain that you're continuing to follow and track this morning. Take a look at the traffic map. Nothing significant. This is what it looks like over in downtown St. Paul, or as you're trying to approach St. Paul. Tough to make out. The roads, they are wet this morning, as we mentioned before. Make sure you're careful. Make sure those headlights are working. Windshield wipers in good condition if you're getting ready to leave. But again, no crashes we're following this morning. We do work to keep you up to date with the latest news and weather developments. We're going to do that all day here on the stream. Here's something that's happening today. This is over in St. Paul. It's a summer program. It's kicking off to keep kids healthy this summer. St. Paul Public Schools providing free meals to kids under 18 who are currently enrolled in a school program. Kids and teens can grab a meal. We're talking more than 50 schools, recreation centers, libraries, community sites. This starts today. The St. Paul Public Schools food truck will serve favorites. We're talking burgers, rice bowls, nachos, and more. And the program runs through August 21st. You can check out St. Paul Public Schools website if you'd like a full schedule. And today on Mid-Morning at 9, the featured artist from the Stone Arch Bridge Festival is going to join us to show off his work. That's ahead of this weekend's big event. It's always a lot of fun out at the Stonebridge Arch Festival in Minneapolis. We're going to be back with more news headlines after we take a quick break.
You're watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Joseph Dames will check in with your next weather soggy forecast in a second. I want to start with the final vote today to decide on if the Minnehaha off-leash dog park will remain open. This is in Minneapolis, where park leaders say it's actually a sacred site with deep meaning for Dakota tribes. A park board member introduced a resolution earlier this month to, quote, decommission the dog park because of the cultural significance. There's at least one park board member who wants to slow that process down. That final vote, that's happening tonight at 5 o'clock. Well, despite today's wet forecast, we are not seeing any problems on the roads, despite what it looks like outside. Pretty gloomy, 394 at Highway 100 over in Golden Valley. The good news, though, is the traffic map. All that green, and we are not following any crashes as we're now just 3 minutes away from the 8 o'clock hour. Joseph, is this rain going to taper off, though?
It's going to be kind of in and out as we go through the day today. So, yeah, there's going to be some moments where it kind of winds down, tapers off, especially south and southwest. You could kind of see a gap there. But there will be more that moves on in. It is very heavy north north and east, but it looks like people are handling it well, going nice and slow out there with that steady rain. It's coming down on 169 through Aiken County and over towards areas like Pine County and pushing into Duluth here early. All the severe weather is south of us, which is good news. There's even a few sun breaks down to the southwest. 62 coming out of Marshall. We have temperatures in the 50s, and it will not warm up much as we go through the day today. We'll get those updates, though, coming up at 8.
This is WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, more than a dozen people are facing federal charges in connection to anti-ICE protests. The allegations of violence as some push back on the claims. Then, the amount of felony charges a man now faces after an hours-long standoff with police. Plus, an Iron Range community is coming together to help a family in need. The effort from moms of players on a mini-mite hockey team raising money for the family. And later, it's the final day of the G7 summit for President Trump. The questions from both sides of the political aisle on the peace deal with Iran. Good morning. Welcome to WCCO Mornings. We're live on our free streaming channel each weekday on CBS News Minnesota. I'm Maria Lizignoli, and thank you so much for joining us. We start with the latest developments after U.S. prosecutors in Minnesota announced charges against 15 people they say conspired to, quote, violently oppose immigration law enforcement. Despite the fact U.S. Attorney General Daniel Rosen failed to describe a single example of injuries to federal agents when repeatedly questioned. Take a look at this new video of one of the people charged getting arrested in South Minneapolis yesterday. You can see federal agents in tactical gear leading a man into a black SUV while protesters shouted at them. The Department of Justice claims he and 14 others were part of a, quote, Antifa conspiracy to block and hurt ICE agents. Our Barrett Leone was at the federal courthouse earlier this morning and has the latest on these cases.
Yeah, that's right. And that defendant calls this case politically motivated. He was one of the dozen who appeared in court Tuesday afternoon. And right now, two defendants remain at large currently. Federal prosecutors, though, they say that this case is the result of a months-long investigation. 15 people are facing federal charges in connection to anti-ICE protests here in Minnesota. Those charges include conspiracy to impede or injure federal officers, assault on a federal officer, interstate stalking, destruction of government property, and more. Outside the federal courthouse Tuesday, supporters gathered throughout the afternoon as 12 of the 15 defendants made their first court appearance. All 12 who appeared in court were released pending future hearings. Now, we spoke with one defendant who called the evidence against him flimsy.
And there was 12 armed men with assault rifles pointed at me, demanding that I surrender or basically be shot. This is what they will do, and they won't go away if we become quiet or become docile. That's when they start to take control again. That's when they start to make moves again. We need to get loud, we need to get into the streets, and we need to resist them.
At a news conference Tuesday announcing the charges, U.S. Attorney Daniel Rosen pointed to a statement Kennedy made online describing the burning of Minneapolis's 3rd precinct as, quote, the happiest moment of my life. In another post, he wrote, quote, you will never win with non-violence. Kennedy denied the allegations. Investigators said defendants were charged not for what they said, but what they did.
Today's announcement is the result of a thorough and months-long investigation into a deeply concerning trend: coordinated violence targeting federal law enforcement officers and facilities.
Now, Rosen made multiple references to violence made by those charged. However, when repeatedly asked about how many agents were injured or specific injuries, he did not give any specific examples. But in the next half hour, we will hear from a defense attorney who calls this case politically motivated.
And we'll have continuing coverage throughout the morning on these new charges. Plus, what is Antifa? Is it a label, an idea, or a terrorist organization? We'll take a closer look at that in the next half hour. A man now faces several felony charges after an hours-long standoff near Eat Street. A fugitive was holed up in an apartment in Minneapolis last Tuesday and started shooting at law enforcement. 2 girls in the next-door apartment safely escaped, and so did a 3-year-old who was inside the apartment when the shooting started. Tyler O'Brien is now facing 21 felonies. Charges against him say he shot through the door towards the deputies directly outside. Then they say he fired multiple volleys in their direction. Some of those rounds hit the ground near them, armored vehicles, and at least 1 squad car. The standoff lasted 8 hours before negotiators were able to thankfully end it, and nobody was hurt. Happening today, the man accused of murdering a Minnesota healthcare CEO is headed to court after a mistake postponed his hearing yesterday. Luigi Mangione is charged with killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in December of 2024. Mangione was supposed to be in a New York courtroom yesterday, but the prosecutors didn't send required paperwork to the jail. His state and federal trials are scheduled to begin this fall. The convicted ringleader in the nation's largest pandemic fraud scheme wants a new trial. A judge sentenced Amy Bach last month to more than 40 years for leading the Feeding Our Future scheme. On Tuesday, Bach filed a notice that she's appealing both the sentence and her conviction. Prosecutors say the group stole $250 million by pretending to feed hungry children. More than 70 people have been charged in the scheme. Candidates running to be Minnesota's next governor just filed reports showing how much they have to spend in their campaigns, and there's a large disparity between the parties. Listen to this. In the race to be the Republican candidate, House Speaker Lisa Damith reports more than $360,000. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell shows almost $650,000 in his fund, and the party endorsed candidate Kendall Qualls has about $211,000 in his fund. The candidates will face off in a primary on August 11th. Running unopposed for the DFL nomination for governor, Democrat U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar reports more than $7 million in campaign funds. The general election is November 3rd. Today is the final day in France at the G7 summit for President Trump. He's scheduled to hold a press conference later this morning, 2 days before the scheduled signing of the U.S.-Iran peace agreement. The president posed for a picture with world leaders at the G7 summit as he sold the U.S. agreement as a positive step forward. The text of that deal, though, to end the war has not been made public, with an in-person signing scheduled for Friday in Switzerland. It's drawing criticism from some Democratic lawmakers, and even some Republicans are reserving judgment.
I just have one basic question, which is, if this deal is so good, why can't the public see it?
I think we'd all like to see the terms of the memorandum and hopefully end up with a real deal.
President Trump is directing his critiques at Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu after Israel attacked Beirut, targeting Iran-backed Hezbollah fighters just as the agreement was finalized. Netanyahu is vowing to keep forces in southern Lebanon as long as needed, saying the struggle has not ended. Iran says their presence violates the U.S.-Iran deal to end the war. Today at the G7, President Trump will sit down with leaders of Egypt and India. We're learning more details today about a plot to attack officials attending the UFC fights on the White House grounds over the weekend. Court documents say 5 people involved in the plot have been arrested so far. Authorities say more arrests are likely, and there were at least 19 people who had been discussing the plan to kill White House officials, including President Trump. Those discussions were being had on the messaging app Signal. Court documents say the plot began to unravel last week when the mother of an alleged planner tipped off police. She said her son bought $3,000 worth of weapons. Look at those raindrops on the WCCO rooftop. Kind of a cloudy, dreary morning out there. Checking in now with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames. And Joseph, it's going to be a soaker out there today.
Yeah, very, very soggy, especially this morning. And I think that we'll have waves kind of moving through as we go through the day today. So there could be potentially some moments where it is dry and you could get out there and you won't have to worry about the rain. But right now is now one of them. It is very, very wet. 57 degrees coming out of our rooftop. A little breezy at times. Overall, though, it's not going to be too windy around here, though much windier southwest of us in southwest Minnesota. But check out how much rain we've already had. 1/4 inch of rain today. That's going all the way back to midnight, and we'll likely see more as we go through the day today. I think about 1/2 inch to 1 inch of rain is completely possible. Starting to see some dry time down to the south and southwest. In fact, this whole area down here, some of our counties from like Sibley County down to LeSueur County, hasn't been all that wet this morning, but the rest of us definitely have been. And there's going to be more rain that kind of moves on into western Hennepin County here shortly. Steady rain coming through Aiken County, Itasca County as well, and extended into the east here. So if you're up north, grab a rain jacket. If you're west of 169, out towards some of the lakes there, over towards Crow Wing County, then maybe it's starting to dry up some, but the clouds will still linger, and there's still going to be more rain likely in the forecast later today. Severe weather, though, is staying south and southeast. I mean, they're getting a lot of moisture. They're also dealing with flooding concerns, and now even a tornado watch in sections of Illinois. So it's going to be quite busy there. We're tapping into some of that moisture and energy, but not quite the severe weather for us. Heading out the door, it's cooler, though. I mean, really is. I have mid-50s, and it's going to be very slow to warm up because of the clouds and the rain today. So high temperatures likely only in the mid to upper 60s this afternoon. You'll notice a couple of thunderstorms, though, in the forecast later today, and there's even a threat for maybe some strong to severe weather later today, Maria. And I want to discuss that. We'll do that, though, coming up at 8:30.
All right, Joseph, thank you. Let's check out your next drive now. Things are looking good traffic-wise on the roads. No incidents to report, but if we take a live look out there, you know it is wet. So just be aware of that. This is up in near Little Canada on 35E. And you can see here there is a bit of a backup, just normal traffic delays because of the timing as well as probably the weather. America's 250th birthday is just a few weeks away, and plenty of people will be traveling to celebrate. According to AAA, this year there's likely to be record travel numbers, and traveling starts days before the actual holiday. AAA is projecting 72.2 million people will travel at least 50 miles for Independence Day, which would beat last year's record of 71.8 million. The busiest travel period for the 4th of July is actually a 9-day stretch. That starts on June 27th and it runs through July 5th. AAA is predicting more than 61 million people will drive to their destinations. Meanwhile, nearly 6 million people are expected to fly. The other, roughly 5 million people, will be traveling by bus, train, or cruise. And if you're one of the 61 million people driving, gas prices will still be causing some trouble, but they are going down. Today, Minnesota's average is at $3.82, and that's down from last week when prices were $3.94. It's still higher, though, than this time last year when prices were just $3.05. Still to come, the PWHL draft is tonight. Find out who the Frost could be looking to add to their roster for the upcoming season. And later, Williams sisters, when you can see Venus and Serena playing doubles once again. A small community in Minnesota is coming together for one of their own, and as he faces a very difficult journey ahead. A 5-year-old boy saved his brother's life, but he fell into an icy creek in the process. This happened in Greenway, Minnesota, about a half-hour south of Hibbing. His name is Ashkan, and he is fighting for his own life in a pediatric intensive care unit after needing surgeries on his internal organs. Now, the moms from his Mini Mites hockey team are coming together to support his family. They've teamed up with a local clothing line to print out t-shirts with the saying, "Stick together for Ash." Pressing, printing, and shipping, all done by the moms.
Everybody in the state of Minnesota can kind of relate to a hockey community rallying around one of their own.
Even though the population of Greenway is less than 2,000 people, the moms say they've already sold a third of that in shirts. Sports and charity can often go hand in hand. Former Gopher athletic director Joel Maturi and his wife hosted a benefit for Second Harvest Heartland this week. That group works with food shelves to give access to food insecure families.
We know that 1 in 5 Minnesota families cannot afford the food they need. And so that is a staggering number if you think about your own networks.
I joined the board, and I'm amazed at the work this place does. The food insecurity in our community is much greater than most of us realize.
The Special Olympic USA Games are just days away from getting started here in Minnesota, and the Flame of Hope has begun its journey across the state. Yesterday, the torch was in Duluth. Today's stops include Hibbing, Brainerd, and Alexandria. Tomorrow, there's going to be several more stops. Torch making its way down to Watertown, Rochester, Red Wing, then up to Bloomington, and after that, it stays in the metro ahead of Saturday's opening ceremony at Huntington Bank Stadium. Happening tonight, the PWHL Draft. The Frost will be looking to improve their roster after being eliminated in the first round of playoffs. They hold the 9th overall pick. The team could be looking at defense after 2 of their best players at the position went to an expansion team this offseason. They also lost some key forwards as well. You can watch the draft on the PWHL's YouTube channel at 4 this afternoon. And speaking of the Frost, a couple of their players took home awards recently. Kelly Panic won Forward of the Year after she led the PWHL in goals and points. She also made the first All-Star team along with teammate Taylor Heisey. Of course, they're Minnesotans as well, Panic from Plymouth and Heisey from Lake City. The Lynx are on an offensive tear right now. They've scored more than 300 points over their last 3 games. Today, they're in LA to take on the Sparks. Monday, they put up 107 points in a blowout against Portland. They're getting up and down the court with pace, and all the starters are scoring efficiently, and that's just a recipe for success.
You know, we making shots. I mean, when you look at our field goal attempts, it ain't like it's 18 and 20 shots going up. I think we're efficient, and that's why you see the score the way it is. But like Nia said, man, I love the way we play. If we can play fast and get out and run, I think we thrive in that space.
The Vikings veterans now have some off time before training camp, and one player that made a splash last season is Miles Price. Well, he's back and says he'd like to be more than a special teams return man, but that's how he made the team a year ago. He says he knows what he can do, and now it's just time to grind.
It's always room for improvement. Some plays that I made and then some plays that I didn't make. So just finding ways to build off of what I did last year, just be even better this year.
The tennis world is buzzing about this. The Williams sisters are returning to Wimbledon. Yup, Serena and Venus are teaming up to play doubles on the grass at the All England Club. It has been 10 years since they last played together at Wimbledon. Serena is now 44 years old. Venus turns 46 tomorrow. The sisters have won 6 doubles titles at Wimbledon. The tournament starts in less than 2 weeks. All right, let's check out your next drive. Things are looking good in the traffic flow area of this, but you know, of course, there is a lot of rain out there, so roads could potentially be slick. Here's down in Shakopee area on 169. This is very typical backup for this time of day. Coming up, we have another update on the weather, plus more of this morning's top headlines. Then, more than a dozen anti-ICE protesters are now facing charges. The reason, a defense lawyer is confident he can win these cases in court. But first, a dog park debate. A sacred site is home to where local dogs like to play. The major decision that could be made tonight.
watching WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Barrett Leone. Joseph Dames will have your next weather forecast in just a minute. But first, a day of decisions in Minneapolis. The Minneapolis City Council will discuss ShotSpotter technology. The technology listens for gunfire. Supporters say it helps officers respond quickly, but critics wonder if it's worth the cost. The Minneapolis Police Department is asking for $3 million over the next 3 years. Now the proposal is back before the council again today. Meanwhile, a final vote to decide if the Minnehaha off-leash dog park will remain open. Minneapolis park leaders say it's actually a sacred site with deep meaning for Dakota tribes. There's at least one park board member who wants to slow down the process. The final vote is happening tonight at 5. Let's take a look at your next drive. We're not tracking any active crashes or backups right now. Things are looking pretty good, but it is pretty wet across the metro. This is over in New Brighton 694. You can see some raindrops clinging to the camera lens there, and roads are just wet. So do take your time out there. Be careful because you might run into some rain, Joseph.
Yeah, definitely seen the rain around here. North and east of us, you'll be running into some steady and heavy rain pushing into areas of western Wisconsin. And if you're around here and down to the southwest, it might be a little more patchy and on the lighter side. Regardless, going slow this morning is always a good little trip and tip, I would say. Hastings right now, a little wet over towards Rice Lake into some of our counties in western Wisconsin. It's coming down, and that goes for you folks up north. Aiken County, honestly, has been wet for the last like 3, 4, 5 hours. It has been coming down along 169 and down to the southeast right there. Let me show you what's going on with our temperatures, though. 50s and 60s, warmer to the southwest with some sun breaks. I am expecting maybe a break here or there as we head into the early afternoon before our next round of rain, which we'll discuss coming up at 8:30.
This is WCCO Mornings, always streaming on CBS News Minnesota.
Next on WCCO Mornings, a clash outside the federal courthouse. Dozens of people arrested in connection to Operation Metro Surge. The charges they face and the vow to fight back. Then weighing the cost as MPD wants to expand shot spotter technology. The city council has to decide if it's worth the price tag, the money they're asking for. Plus, a popular local dog park could be on the verge of closing. We'll tell you more about the final vote happening today. And later, the push to save a bison responsible for a tragedy at a popular state park. How one man's mission has South Dakota lawmakers switching gears. Good morning. Welcome to WCCO Mornings, streaming live on CBS News Minnesota. I'm Barrett Leone. Thanks for joining us. Right now, 15 people are charged here in Minnesota, accused of conspiring to violently oppose immigration law enforcement. That's according to the U.S. Attorney's Office. But we still have not seen any evidence of injury to agents after repeatedly asking. Prosecutors say this case isn't about free speech. It's about actions they say cross the line into criminal conduct. Majority of the defendants were arrested Tuesday morning. The charges, which range from assault on a federal officer to destruction of government property to conspiracy to impede or injure a federal officer, are all connected to anti-ICE protests. 12 of the 15 charged appeared in court Tuesday afternoon, and they were released pending future hearings. Outside the courthouse, supporters rallied for hours, chanting as defendants were released one by one. WCCO crews also witnessed law enforcement deploy tear gas and pepper spray as tensions escalated.
These defendants have been charged not for what they said, but for what they did. They all joined an agreement, a conspiracy, to interfere with lawful immigration enforcement operations. The conspiracy was not to interfere by their voice, but to do it by force.
A defendant we spoke with following his court appearance called the evidence against him flimsy. He denies the allegations. Defense attorneys argue the case is politically motivated and say protesters were exercising their constitutional rights.
At the bottom of this indictment is the federal government is trying to push back against citizens who oppose the invasion of this state. We'll fight these cases. We're confident that we can defend them.
Again, when repeatedly asked, U.S. Attorney for Minnesota Daniel Rosen wasn't able to give specific examples of federal officers injured or how many were injured. However, he did show multiple online statements used as evidence in the case, including a video where a defendant is seen wearing a bulletproof vest and telling his viewers to get their guns and stop these people. Yesterday's charges allege ties to Antifa. President Trump signed this order last fall that labeled Antifa a domestic terrorist organization. In today's Good Question, Jeff Wagner digs into how the protest movement is defined and the challenges of separating free speech from actual threats.
Antifa stands for anti-fascist or anti-fascism. Simply put, it's people who oppose fascism. But is it just a label, an idea, or is it, as the president declared, a terrorist organization? Good question.
The Congressional Research Service looked into America's Antifa movement in 2020. It called it decentralized, consisting of independent, radical, like-minded groups and individuals.
Decentralized means an organization that's not controlled from one place or by one person. Essentially, Antifa has no structure, no official membership, and those who use the label can have different ideologies.
Some people might be socialists, some people might be communists, some people might be anarchists, and they all use this term anti-fascist to describe themselves. However, they're not really connected to an overarching ideology.
Bianca Ho is with ACLID, a research nonprofit focused on political violence and protest.
So there are some small pockets of city-level groups who would consider themselves as an Antifa group.
That's what the U.S. Attorney for Minnesota highlighted while announcing charges.
Related to efforts of two Minneapolis-based Antifa groups that violently opposed the enforcement of federal law in our state.
In his executive order declaring Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, President Trump said the federal government should investigate, disrupt, and dismantle any and all illegal operations conducted by Antifa or any person claiming to act on behalf of Antifa.
Despite his executive order, the FBI has not declared any organization as a domestic terrorist organization.
The Congressional Research Service says doing so may infringe on First Amendment protected free speech. Belonging to an ideological group in and of itself is not a crime in the United States.
This executive order casts a very large net on who they target. However, because this is more of an ideology, it is difficult to define membership.
In addition to the executive order, President Trump issued National Security Presidential Memorandum 7, which directed the Justice Department to prioritize politically motivated violence.
To accomplish that mission, the Deputy Attorney General stood up Joint Task Force Vanguard to enforce a national security strategy to investigate, prosecute, and disrupt those who engage in political violence and intimidation.
That's what created the framework leading to the charges against the anti-ICE protesters. Jeff Wagner, WCCO News.
Domestic terrorism itself is not a chargeable offense. Prosecutors also can't charge someone for being part of Antifa. The future of data centers in Minneapolis remains up in the air following a city council meeting yesterday. But for the first time, we're hearing from Minneapolis residents on the topic. Right now, there is a 6-month pause on all data center developments in Minneapolis, other than projects happening within the downtown core. But this isn't a data center ban. This is time to create regulations and explore potential harm these projects could cause for the community.
Data centers provide thousands of work hours for our members in family-sustaining careers that offer industry-leading wages, healthcare, retirement benefits, and apprenticeship training opportunities.
These centers are a drain on public resources and a bite on our communities that will drive away business-minded individuals and entrepreneurs who understand that the public outcry around these data centers will lead to a further exodus of our entertainment and hospitality industry.
That debate on data centers will now head to the full city council for a vote. Another topic the council discussed yesterday, bathhouses. The vote to lay the groundwork for bathhouses in Minneapolis failed at a committee hearing Tuesday, but under council rules, it will still move to a vote by the full city council. Bathhouses were banned in Minneapolis back in 1988 during the AIDS crisis. Now those in favor say legalizing bathhouses allows for greater opportunity for these venues to better combat the spread of STIs through things like testing.
To keep them banned and closed does not reduce HIV, especially in a city where there are bathhouses that are happening, but they're happening underground.
I see a revenue stream. We're talking about revitalizing downtown. We're talking about business opportunities for all sorts of different walks of life. Do you know what brings in money? Adult venues.
Councilmember Jason Chavez says the ban is rooted in homophobia. Again, the topic will get considered by the full council at a later date. Happening today, the city council will discuss ShotSpotter technology, which has recently been up for debate. The technology listens for gunfire. Supporters say it helps officers respond quickly, but critics wonder if it's worth the cost. The Minneapolis Police Department hopes to extend and expand the program to the tune of $3 million over the next 3 years. Now the proposal is back before the council today. We'll update you as soon as we learn more. Minneapolis park leaders say a beloved dog park is actually a sacred site with deep meaning for Dakota tribes. The Minnehaha off-leash dog park runs along the Mississippi River and gives dog owners a chance to let their dogs run free in the water in the city. It's been open for years. A park board member introduced a resolution in early June to, quote, decommission the dog park because of the cultural significance. Last night, the park board president shared a statement with WCCO saying in part, quote, we have received significant input from constituents, native leaders, MPRB staff, historians, and archaeologists on this issue, enough that we feel we can make an informed decision. Now he wants to see people start talking about alternate locations. This park board has consulted with a Native American advisory council. Some members focused on the spiritual significance, saying dogs at the site would stop a Native person from praying there. But some dog owners say they don't agree with that reasoning.
And this is a secular governing body, and they're not supposed to be making zoning decisions based off theology.
There is at least one park board member who wants to slow down the process. She introduced an amendment that calls for more community engagement. The final vote is scheduled for tonight. It is 8:40 and it is a rainy one here in downtown Minneapolis. Seeing a lot of cloud cover there. Our next weather tower shining green. And this morning, Joseph, I was outside for a while and I'd have my umbrella out and then I'd put it away and then I'd bring it back out. And that's kind of the story today.
It is. Yeah. It's going to be coming through in episodes as we go through the day today. So very steady right now north and east of us. And there will be a moment, hopefully, that you get a reprieve from all the rain, though. This type of rain is usually pretty good for us. It's nice to get this soaking rain. We have drought conditions that have been developing across the state and over into areas of Wisconsin, so this is going to be very helpful. There's been some moments where it did slow down a little bit. Now we're seeing a little more rain pick on up, and then we may see a little bit more right behind that as I zoom up to the north here, take you into Kanabec County there. Areas of Peace seeing some very steady rain. Finally shifting east of 169 through Aiken County and Mille Lacs County there is really coming down when it's really starting to, again, find its axis a little bit farther to the east, and then just a little something towards Howard Lake and Cokato there coming off of 12. If you're going to be doing some traveling there, that's moving directly to the east towards the cities. We have a steady stream of energy, though, coming through. We have surface low pressure not too far away that is essentially going to come together and shift to the east as we go through the day today. What you're seeing south and east of us is where all the severe weather has been overnight and early this morning. That's a severe thunderstorm watch. That's a tornado watch there in Illinois. And this initial line of strong storms is getting picked up by that very aggressive wind. You'll see that we have some dry time that might take over here, like mid to late morning, and then I'm expecting maybe a few more showers heading into the lunchtime hour, and then we're going to open up the door to the threat for maybe some severe weather. That severe threat, though, is more so going to be concentrated southeast of us. This is a 4 or 5. Again, just like last week on Wednesday, this area of Illinois is again coming through with a moderate risk 4 or 5 for severe weather, where they could potentially see maybe another tornado outbreak. For us, we have this lobe up to the northwest, which is a 1 of 5 marginal risk. And what that means for us is we still have some energy to work with today, but it's really going to be isolated, and severe weather isn't promised, but there is a possibility for a little something forming, and that goes for you folks in this 2 of 5 slight risk down south here. And this area is more likely to see something develop later today. Weather models continue to show some rain over the top of us and to the northeast. That's at lunchtime. This is when I think things are going to start to build up again. And then you'll see a few isolated storms and cells just to the south and east. And this is going to be that wave right here. That could have downpours, maybe some damaging wind, some hail, and could potentially become severe. And the rest of the area and the state looks to be more scattered and isolated at that point in time. And then we all start to dry up as we head into the late time hours tonight, probably leaving us with some dry time for our Thursday morning and hopefully a nice sunrise and hopefully just sunshine all day. There's 7 p.m. on Thursday evening, and it's still looking quite dry at that point in time. I don't think we're finished with the rain, though, after today. Friday looks like we have another quick moving system that could move in around lunchtime on Friday, leaving us with some rain and maybe some isolated thunderstorms Friday afternoon and evening before it clears out for what looks to be a really nice Saturday. I'll leave you here with the 7-day forecast, Barrett. We go from 68 today, and that might be warm, to 71 tomorrow with dry time. There's that chance for some showers and storms on Friday. And then we're into the weekend with a beautiful Saturday before we spot a few showers coming through on Father's Day.
All right, thanks, Joseph. Let's check out your next drive. Good morning, Bloomington 494 at Highway 100. Roads are wet, skies are gloomy looking, but we are not tracking any active crashes or slowdowns for you this morning. Just the rain, and that is really the story we're seeing across the metro. A lot of green on your screen indicating free-flowing traffic. Just be aware that you might run into some wet roads out there. Coming up, another update on weather, plus more of this morning's top headlines. Stay with us. Minnesotans, we know you love a good road trip to South Dakota, but a popular tourist destination was rattled last month after a woman was killed by a bison. That lone bison was set to be euthanized, but as Beth Warden reports, a man stepped up to find a different solution.
It started with a tragedy, and I just didn't want it to end with a tragedy either.
Last month, news of a woman killed by a buffalo was heartbreaking for tourists and the locals. Moritz Espy was told of the plans for the buffalo.
We're gonna put it down.
Curiosity got the best of him. He drove around Custer State Park.
That's the bull. They've got him with a group of other animals. They don't keep them all relaxed.
And that's when he took on the mission to intervene on behalf of a bison.
The only tool I have is a phone and an internet connection and a lawn chair at this point.
Moritz shared his concerns on social media.
People that had more pull than me got to work.
And one of those was former legislator and BIA agent Troy Heinert.
I was fortunate enough to get a hold of the governor and just gave him another option. We translocate buffalo from federal parks and reserves all the time.
Tribal and state leaders in several departments worked together and found a solution, a new home for the buffalo away from tourists. How does it feel to know that the bison's going to go to the Rosebud Reservation?
Indigenous neighbors and our tribal folks, you know, they've got herds of their own. They know what they're doing, and I'm glad that they're putting him out to pasture and going to let him live his natural life. So I'm pretty happy with that.
At Custer State Park, warning signs remind visitors to respect wild animals. Stoic bison could act quickly. The bison is expected to arrive at Rosebud Game Fish and Parks in about 2 weeks. The community will have a welcoming ceremony and offer prayers.
That was Beth Warden reporting. The Rosebud Reservation is located in south-central South Dakota along the state line with Nebraska. The reservation has just under 1 million acres of tribal lands. This is a live look outside downtown Minneapolis. It's a rainy one today. Yep, soggy. Look at those raindrops. Let's check in with next weather meteorologist Joseph Dames.
It's going to be a soggy one. Here we go for a Wednesday. Good morning to everybody. We do have some rain and some isolated thunderstorms in the forecast for today. And temperatures are just going to be running on the cooler side with highs in the 60s, probably the upper 60s, pushing 70 down south. And yes, a chance for some strong to maybe even some severe storms this afternoon. That severe threat will mainly stay southeast of us, but notice closer to the cities and down to the southeast, we have a 1 of 5 marginal risk and a 2 of 5 slight risk.
As always, we'll continue to keep you up to date on the latest news and weather developments all day here on the stream. Happening today in St. Paul, a summer program keeping kids healthy is kicking off. St. Paul Public Schools will provide free meals to kids 18 and under who are currently enrolled in a school program. Kids and teens can grab a meal at more than 50 schools, recreation centers, libraries, and community sites starting today. The SPPS food truck will serve favorites like burgers, rice bowls, nachos, and more. The program lasts through August 21st. Check out the St. Paul Public Schools website for a full schedule. Coming up today on Mid-Morning at 9, the featured artist from the Stone Arch Bridge Festival joins us to show us his work ahead of this weekend's big event. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back after a quick break.